Know that you captured those special moments. Turn them into lasting memories at the TDC Business Center. Purchase your photo print bundle and get a chance to win a Canon MG3010 printer. Click and print. Visit TDC Business Center today.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And I am Desi Brown, your moderator and panelist for today and co-founder of Alarm Clock, in collaboration with Win Media for a special edition of Inside the News. And today we'll be talking about economic recovery for small businesses. I have three other panelists with me today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and we're going to head right into the discussion, which is really looking at COVID-19's impact on small businesses. I think that's pretty straightforward, so we'll get right into it. Chev?
Hi, good morning. My name is Siobhan Richards, also known as Chev Rich, and I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm happy to be here this morning for the discussion.
Thank you for coming.
I'm Delwayne Delaney. Good morning, everyone. I'm from the Small Business Development Center that is housed in the Ministry of International Trade, where I'm a business support officer.
Hi, morning, everyone. Rodney Brown, CEO, eCaribbean. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we're going to actually get into a bit of what for Chev and Rodney, especially, what your businesses do, and then I'm going to ask Delwayne to tell me a bit about what your unit does, so that, the folks can get a better idea of probably why you're here and how you're going to impact this discussion this morning. So, Chev, you're gonna introduce your business in a sense, very short, and why did you choose entrepreneurship? What was it about you that made you think that you could do well as a business owner?
Well, I like to think of myself as an artist overall. So I dabble in visual arts. I'm a painter, so me and my husband, we are partners, so we do sell a lot of paintings and do like custom artwork and stuff. But then we're also into culinary arts. So we basically have a company where we take what you would consider healthy food, but we try to make it into something that's very delectable, very delicious, and appealing to persons in the hopes that it will convert them into a healthier lifestyle. What made me get into being an entrepreneur? Well, since being into arts again, I like to think out of the box, and a lot of things that are accepted really bore me, and they don't really do it for me much, and I'm very much into freedom. So I found that when I became an entrepreneur, I got to make my own decisions. I definitely living on my own schedule, which is super important to me, and I just feel like I'm able to contribute to society in a more innovative way than if I was just in a 9-to-5.
Okay, thank you so much, Rodney.
Yeah, my business, eCaribbean, we deal primarily with web solutions, so hosting and developing websites primarily. We also provide web management services. Been in business for approaching 16 years now, so it's been quite a long road. As it relates to my initiation into entrepreneurship, I grew up in a family filled with women, aunts, mother, grandmother, etc. And at some point in their lives, each one of them entered the realm of either side gig or full-blown entrepreneurship, whether it was from the eatery scene, the designing scene, fashion design, printing and print design, etc. Even natural juices, all those type of things. So I was always surrounded by entrepreneurial buzz in the family setting, but even with that, I never really had the intention of becoming an entrepreneur. I was quite fine for the most part with working in an environment where I'm just an employee, providing my skill set, etc. I dived into entrepreneurship, like I said, about 16 years, well, before that really. It was in about 21 years ago, when I remember approaching my then boss at a software development company, telling him I had an idea to develop something, and someone approached me and they said, they liked the idea and they wanted us to pursue it some more. So I told them what my intentions were. He gave me full support. He said, you know what, you can't do it here. I see your heart is in trying to explore this idea, so you have my support in terms of venturing out and doing it. And so that was my first step into being a business owner. I'm not sure what the market, the response to from the market would entail really, but having the deep desire to really pursue the ideas I had. So that was really my drive, just being able to do the ideas and not have to be beholden to a structure that may not be working in parallel with what I want to do, essentially. So some form of independence. Independence is very important.
All right.
All right. From the SBDC point of view, we are a business support organization or unit within, as I said, within the Ministry of International Trade, where we provide technical support to small business owners or entrepreneurs, whether it be business plan proposal writing, duty-free concession, consultations, training, workshops. We cover all of those areas for persons who are seeking to advance their business, who are seeking to go into business, or who might have an idea and want it to be fleshed out in greater detail. We have that support readily available for entrepreneurs.
All right, thank you so much. And for those of you listening, I neglected to say that if you do wish to call in and give a comment or ask a question, you can call 466-0189, 762-0189. Huh? 0989, okay. So the number is 466-0989, my bad, 762-0989 and 662-0989. And we're live on Facebook and Periscope, so thank you guys for tuning in. We just had some introductions of, why Chev and Rodney chose entrepreneurship. I'm going to state mine at this point, and we'll head into the discussion some more. So I'm a creative enterprise entrepreneur, as most people know. I'm the owner of Poise SKN, and I would have also started another venture called the Brown Pen. First, I just like Rodney, I had no intentions of going into entrepreneurship. It was my goal kind of to work with essentially government, mainly because I was interested in world politics and international relations, foreign affairs, and that kind of thing. I even volunteered with the Department of Youth as well as Foreign Affairs prior to going off to university. But during my second year of university, I was unable to get a placement in an internship program. Having been one of the students that was performing at the top of my program, that was something that we were offered. I was not able to be assigned, and so I took the opportunity that summer to begin to draft out a plan B as to where I would go should I not be able to even get a job after university. And so that's something that I did, and obviously I did not get a job, so we went to plan B. I also, what are some of the things about me that made me think that I could do entrepreneurship? I have an inequality to create, innovate. I love getting things done and helping others to look their best. I was also raised, like Rodney, in an entrepreneurial environment. I had the privilege of, and I say it's a privilege because I do realize that not having been exposed to that first-hand entrepreneurial environment that I may not have ever thought about doing something like that. So I had the insight at an early age to become the architect of my own life, because my parents, as I think it's an honor to have seen them, as for all my life, they've been entrepreneurs and they've excelled very well at it. Everything that they did really well at it. And so that has become something, the only thing that I have ever known. I would have created that business plan also because I felt like it could have influenced an area in entertainment and creative arts which had a potential but had not been fully realized. So I can give some examples, being able to integrate creative arts into tourism products some more, utilizing our young people in a creative promotional marketing in a way that is creative. In promotional marketing and events, introducing a new innovative style of dance, which is aerial. We're the first and the only, actually, group that does aerial dance in the form of aerial hoop and aerial silk, which is something different that we do, and also delivering dance education in a different way. We have dance classes twice a week. We do not use the conventional ways of teaching dance. We are driven to the holistic development of the individual and not so much just dance skill, right? The Poison Skin is much more than a dance school. It's a movement. It pushes persons to be confident and, just stand out and not be afraid of standing out. I get people like to use me as an adjective in a way that you are like a desi, in a sense, telling my students stuff like that. But as I mentioned earlier, I also did launch another venture, the Brown Pen, where I offer creative consulting and solution services in the form of creative directing, creative activity, and event production, as well as copywriting and copy audit services. So that's just a bit of the stuff that I do, and why I think I could have been an entrepreneur. Now, we're going to look at the state of small businesses pre-pandemic and during the pandemic. I think I want Darren to lead off on this one. I think you work with a bit of small business owners, so you would be able to kind of give us a insight from where you sit as to what things were like and then what things are like now, and then we'll go around the table.
Okay. The pandemic has not excluded the small business for one bit. They are affected greatly. Before, we would have seen the emergence of many small businesses leading up into the pandemic. But after the pandemic, what we saw, we didn't see so much of a slowdown in terms of activity, but more of a deviation in their business and their business models. Also, we did a lot more consultations in terms of they came to us wondering, what next, where should we go, that sort of thing. Also, we saw the emergence of persons who might have been working, for instance, in the hotel industry, which was probably the hardest hit, and started their own businesses. We saw a lot of businesses emerge out of other small businesses. So we saw persons leaving their original jobs and trying to do the same thing, but probably better, more innovative. So there has been some drop off, of course, and there's not. The flow of small businesses is not the same, definitely not the same after the pandemic, but for sure the business activity in terms of what we do and the engagement we do has not slowed down. Again, what we have seen is persons trying to be a little more innovative, trying to, as I think, outside the box. They almost got their hands forced into doing other things because their livelihoods depend on their small businesses, and perhaps being jobless allows them the opportunity to do so. Although the pandemic is nothing that we wish, but we saw persons' resilience coming out a lot, where we saw individuals pushing and coming in and saying, hey, okay, this is not working for me. can we try something else? And that started a conversation which led them into a different pathway. But to say that was business as usual, no. But it allowed for and gave the opportunity for small business owners, both here in St. Kitts and Nevis, to try something new, to think outside the box, to be innovative, and that sort of thing.
Okay. I had in my mind a totally different experience that you would not have experienced an acceleration of. I've seen a lot of new things come on stream and thinking, okay, some of these people may have had these ideas pre-pandemic, and then during the pandemic, not having a choice, try and get in, right? And see how they could probably fill voids and so forth. I mean, even the IMF said that they didn't expect anything to be happening that's new, because they reported on some sectors would suffer, especially hospitality, sports, recreation, personal services especially, but I've seen a lot of personal services come on stream in St. Kitts, which I think lends itself, might have been to the bad of the IMF, I don't know what they did, but I was thinking about it some more and I said, personal services may have increased because a lot of people are dealing with now mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, things that just generally affect them as a result of having to deal with and constantly hear about COVID-19 and having to experience going through a pandemic and so forth. I mean, like myself, I started using candles. That is to me in connection with personal services as well. You sell these nice small things, and I've seen a lot of those things come on stream. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear that, although in discussion with existing small business people, the experience has been different. But tell me what you think, Rodney.
Well, my business area, for me personally, the pre and current pandemic situation hasn't been too much different. There was actually a spike in business for my business in maybe mid the year, so maybe about a year ago, just for a few months, because we had a lot of businesses exploring our business prospects, exploring online activity, whether it was e-commerce, especially when we had the lockdown situation. So there was that desire to be more digitally resilient in your business model. And so we were able to fill some of that gap area. But in terms of discussing with other small businesses, because I try to engage from time to time, once I know I'm interacting with someone who owns a business, try to get a feel for, even before the pandemic, I just generally like to talk business with people, find out what their experiences are. And one person, a family member who was in the hospitality industry, obviously that got hit very hard, went into you could say the catering, cooking and delivering and that type of stuff. And what they shared with me at the time, this was some months back, was that while business wasn't skyrocketing, it was sustaining itself. And this was a new business. And so they had to apply a number of things in terms of marketing, developing relationships, etc., and working on the quality of the product. But it was at a sustainable level. And it was surprising to me because, as was mentioned, a lot of people, I think the go-to for a lot of people was the cooking as a service, essentially being somewhat of a caterer, because it's obviously one of the easiest things to get into. You can do it from the comfort of your home if necessary. You can do it from the comfort of your home. Some of the ingredients in most cases may not be that costly, and you could generate a good return depending on what you're dealing with. But one of the things that he shared with me, which I then started to see a lot of the activity through that scope, was that the largest market in terms of persons purchasing was government employees. And I found it interesting because then when I look back at it, I said, okay, well, that makes sense, because one of the most stable entities in terms of people not being terminated or the industry still functioning was government. And we, as a culture, frankly, we are consumption-driven culture in St. Kitts. We do more consuming in a general sense than saving in some cases, to our own detriment. But I think that was actually a positive during the pandemic stages, because you had the circulation of a lot of revenue within the country, because you had people that were still gainfully employed who were not really being too conservative, were prepared to still engage and spend in the market. So that has been some of the experiences where it's been a mixed bag, essentially. Based on the industry you're in, like I said, I wasn't impacted that severely. I had a bump and then came back down to normal stages, but someone in our industry would be impacted more seriously.
Okay. Jeff?
Okay, well, I kind of straddle different industries in a sense, in that I'm into food, but I'm also into entertainment and art. So I have seen the effects on both. Food is sort of like a safety net, because we have a saying, everybody must eat, right? You could say, okay, man going to the movies, man doing this, man doing that, everybody must eat. And I think over the years, our culture has changed, where persons have gotten used to having meals prepared for them.
Right.
And it's strange, but a lot of people would tell us, I don't know how to cook. So even if they're strapped for cash, something else has to suffer because they have to eat, and they still want to eat properly. So that's sort of like a safety net, but even that got affected, because now you have to be putting things together for $20. It depends on the time of the day and who you're marketing to. So you had to be very creative. You would see around town that persons would have deals like $20 lunch, free delivery, and persons were really getting into that.
Yeah.
But I still find, again, because our culture has changed so much, and persons pre-pandemic were working like 2 and 3 jobs, cooking had gone out the door. So everyone still found their own little niche, because some people just like the way you do goat water, some people just like that. So as she said, it wasn't booming, but it was sustaining itself. I also, in the natural care realm, like we have a hair product, and because a lot of persons could no longer really keep up with the salon visits, and that's even before the pandemic, like it started kind of easing on, we found that even though a jar is like $30, that it went a long way for persons, because a lot of persons stopped doing the relaxers because they said, well, it's expensive, because then I have to keep up that. So if I buy a jar of a product that keeps my hair manageable, I'm able to use it on myself and throughout the household, so I'm saving. So then you find that a lot of kitchens now are more going to the local base companies, the smaller producers, because they can't really afford. You may not be able to go chop shop right now, because it costs a little bit more, but the girl down the road who does a mean bun, braid up or whatever, she's cheaper, and you support her more, because right now I think also people are a little bit more aware of the fact that we have to support one another, because we've seen the suffering. So we're like, okay, well, I have to. I see, Marley up the road trying to sell her drinks a lot. I got to give Marley a little $5, So I think that's what I've noticed, at least.
This is some interesting revelations for me, because my experiences have been different, but I'm liking to hear that, and I've seen some of this increased support for local, because it's a lot more affordable, and then you're kind of thinking about how is this person next to me is going to eat, because it has been we need to be our brother's keeper kind of vibe. Right. Brothers and sisters, it's 2021. And it's really interesting that although we have experienced we're experiencing now somewhat of an economic crisis after this health crisis, the advent of the health crisis in the initial stages. You have individuals now who are trying to save, going to the local individual to assist them to make an income as well. That's a very, very interesting finding. That's something I think we need to look into. But for me,
Please don't look into it to contact us.
no, not in that regard. Wow. At all. I think that's good market research to help individuals to tap into some niche areas. And so that's what I mean by areas we should look into, right? With the regulations in place, for sure. I mean, my business, Poison Skin, has been closed. So we're at $0 of income, June, July, August, right? That is the reality. I'm going to be very transparent today, because I think, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it, there are lots of small businesses not doing well, not able to innovate. There are things that we could do, but then there is also a culture of it's not important right now for a lot of the things that we do, right? That's the idea that's spinning around with the restrictions and on movement and not being able to gather or travel. I know that a lot of creative businesses are losing income and they're not able to benefit from events such as music festival, fets, carnival, tourism activities such as cruise ships and stopover passengers. Because even like a business like mine, that we're not just a dance school, we also dabble in a lot of commercial activity. We have not had for the past year, we probably have done 2 or 3 things as opposed to our fully booked schedules for months and months and months, because we offer a number of services, right, in a lot of different commercial areas. So we have been terribly impacted by COVID-19. So you can't grow your business within the year. You have to watch what you're spending, and then, you have a studio to pay and all of these costs to cover as well. So these are things that I've heard a lot of other individuals experiencing as well. Their education sectors, I know for sure, even in like tutors have been doing their thing on Zoom, but where it requires face-to-face interaction, it's much more difficult to teach dance online. It's much more difficult. Some children who go to steel pan classes, they don't even have their own steel pan at home to practice. Right. So, of course, they've been impacted. So we've seen also a taking away of some of these joys that we've had to keep us, sane in a sense. And that is some of those areas, like those music classes, all those extracurricular activities. I know for sure lots of people who use these areas to bring in income, even to just supplement their general income, have been terribly impacted. I know that some bigger companies have plunged try to get business support, try to reduce their budgets. So you have bigger companies not spending as much, not giving opportunities to smaller creative individuals as well. And so they're not making any money, right? They're not getting as much exposure to even show their work, or some of them are actually using downtime to create, to show what they're capable of, and trying to encourage companies to come on board. But in the event that they've cut budgets, they are not trying to stand out. They're just trying to communicate to their customers and keep a reliable dialogue going on, so that they don't lose customers and that they can still attract some prospective customers. That's a bit from the research that I did. I noted that IT would have gotten a boost, as well as areas in audiovisual, graphic design, videography, and stuff like that. Tell me.
However, because a lot of my clients were actually in the hospitality industry, such as tour operators, a few hotels, even real estate. So there was real estate, for whatever reason, seems to be, based on my interaction, seems to be picking up this year. But obviously tour operators, hotel, restaurant, etc., those would have been seriously impacted. So I have clients who I just have them on pause. I haven't discontinued service with them, but because what I can do, can take blood from. So it's been impacted depending on, again, it's industry specific. So if you have a mixed bag, so for instance, if I was just dealing with financial institutions, probably would have been really great, because our financial institutions have interestingly enough, been doing quite well still. So it's been a mixed bag overall.
Okay, I agree. I could agree there. And I think one of the other impacts is, for the other impact of COVID-19 on small businesses would have actually been the managing work environments. So I know a lot of, let's use, for example, learning how to manage work environment during a lockdown and limited movements and regulations. To keep a business open, it could be in manufacturing, agriculture, it would have been difficult for them to do that, not just in the creative industry, because there are very few opportunities for them to be able to social distance based on the work that they're doing, right? And then you don't want being on the radar for task force that you're not following policy and have to close you down and these kind of things. We know for sure that had been an issue with restaurants, and they would have closed down bars and stuff like that. But we could use an example as changing policy too fast, not even being able to introduce a policy because of uncertainty. For example, we get regulations every 2 weeks, so we don't have any idea what the next week is going to look like until they come out on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday before the following week, right? So I know for sure that had impacted. So it was not just money, but also policy had impacted small businesses. And then you had the experience of not being able to distribute your supply chain. So your supply chains have been disrupted. An example would be in agriculture, not being able to move fresh produce as quickly and having spoiled produce, right?
Yeah.
So I know for sure the impact it varies a lot for different people in different areas. So I want, when we go through this discussion, we don't just think about monetary gain or a lack of circulation of in some way or some form. That's usually how people think about economic impact, but also as it relates to policy and how policy could actually affect the way business operates or businesses operate. Because like I've said, having the no movement, limited movement policies in place for people like me, and not being able to go to events or have events so that we could be able to benefit from, then that in itself is a policy that affects businesses, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to remind our listeners that the number to call is 466, am I saying it right, 1989?
No, 098.
What is wrong with me? 466-0989, 762-0989, 662-0989. We're live on Facebook and Periscope. You can join the discussion, leave a comment, give us a call. And I think I'm going to take a break right here so that we can get a word from our sponsors. And then we'll come back to join the discussion where we'll be talking about why are businesses starting. All right?
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we're back. You're listening to the special edition of Inside the News with Alarm Clock in collaboration with Win Media. And the topic is economic recovery for small business. We have Chev Rich with us today, Mr. Rodney Brown, and from the Small Business Support Unit. Could you tell me exactly what the name of the unit is?
So it's SBDC, Small Business Development Center.
Okay, Small Business Development Center. Where are you guys located?
Bladen Commercial Development area, that's just adjacent to Credit Union. And the Small Business Development Center is not specific to St. Kitts, it's a regional body, international rather. So you have Small Business Development Center, Florida, Small Business Development Center, Missouri, in South America, Central America. So it's a body we have.
Okay. All right. That's news for me too. And that's Mr. Delwyn Delaney. We just talked about, we introduced ourselves, talked about why we entered business. We gave a little bit of pointers as to what the pre-pandemic and pandemic areas, the impact of COVID-19 would have had on small businesses. And we've had some very interesting revelations, greater support for for local businesses, increase in use of personal services. We know that creative businesses have been impacted greatly because of, the limited movements and policies. We know that manufacturers and agriculture sector have been impacted again by these areas. IT have been engaged more. I'm not going to say a boost. I was corrected. Have been engaged more to offer services in IT development areas for e-commerce. I think I actually have a point here. Besides e-commerce, creating and improving their online platforms, and also to probably improve work situations, helping to communicate to customers and also through internally because they are not in the same space, right? So these are some of the things that we were talking about. Now, there's always a discussion as to why are people starting businesses, because I've seen a lot of businesses of the same kind come on stream. Too many. Right. I also agree with that statement. There are sometimes too many of the same. I mean, everybody says that everybody could have a piece of the pie, yes, but we live in a small market, small market. And we wonder what causes individuals to start businesses. So are businesses being started out of passion? So for example, it's always been my dream to own a bakery. Filling public needs or wants, there is no bakery in my area, or for owner survival, I need money and I can bake. So I want each panelist to rank for me each of the 3 motivators from most prevalent to least prevalent. And I'll start with Delwyn.
I think businesses are start presently. I think it start out of a need. From what we have seen, is almost like a survival mechanism.
Okay.
Presently, perhaps before, when persons have had more choices, perhaps out of a passion, or because they like doing something. Hardly you find persons surveying the market, doing their own market research and say, hey, maybe I could go into this. But for now, post-pandemic, the current stage of the pandemic, I think is mostly out of survival. I need to do this in order to generate income. That's my take.
Okay. All right, Rodney?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Delwyn that pre-pandemic it was probably more, I would weigh heavily more on passion and then have survival and what I would call opportunity coming up behind. But I think survival has edged out passion in the current state just by observation. And it would be nice, I'm going to reference this a couple of times, but I think we need to, when I say we, well, primarily from the government's end, needs to be more prepared to share data or make data easily available as it relates to
Markets?
Markets. So it's available in certain areas, but you have to dig for it. I don't want to have to. My business time is, I don't want to have to spend a lot of time digging. Let's have a system where we could have data where they're available, whether on a quarterly basis. We don't have an unemployment rate. Do we have an unemployment rate?
No.
We're one of the few territories in the Caribbean that don't have an unemployment rate.
Well, one of the issues I can say here in the EASIS region, especially because the OASIS has reported on it, I've reported on it, they've said that one of the issues that we have in our region, our sub-region, is our ability to collect data. Collect that data and be able to publish that data, right, for persons to have access to it. So that has been a problem for years. It requires a lot of. I've been taught to collect data. So when I went to university, a major part of our degree was actually doing research. So research in social sciences, understanding people's behaviors, trying to find out why they do the things they do, or why are they in the situations that they're in, and using special software to get that information in, make predictions, and also to get the data information collated into graphs, into pie charts, into whatever for publication. So there are lots of me's around, and we don't do anything with that skill set, but you probably use it at work within our own businesses, right? So that's something I think the Small Business Center should actually look into.
So what is happening now, we would only collect data from our standpoint when small businesses are seeking assistance.
Okay.
So it's not that I'm looking to start a business, I'm going to the SBDC. Because there are many entrepreneurs who have the support, maybe they from savings or whatever, and go to Inland Revenue, go to Ministry of Finance and fill out their form to get their business license, and then go to Inland Revenue and collect it. We're not in that. We're not in there. So again, who opens up business won't be the same as the data that we collect, unless they would have come to us for some sort of business support.
But Inland Revenue the key data collectors currently, Inland Revenue,
right.
Social Security,
And Development Bank.
and Development Bank, right?
And I think sustainable perhaps.
Correct. Sustainable actually has statisticians, etc.
Yes, that
Right.
work with them.
Right. So to me, we cannot even if we want to put asterisk next to it, we can have a general broad sense to say, okay, based on it may not be all the data because people don't report everything. You have a lot of unregistered activity,
informal,
but what you have access to is already in the system. So it's just a matter of saying, okay, based on population size, based on the adult people who can work, the ability to work, the number roughly is whatever 1,000. Businesses registered and operating in St. Kitts is X. People reporting to Social Security is Y. Figure out something from there, because I think that it is a convenience to not have that type of information available to the public, because from a political sense, and I'm talking political in terms of St. Kitts Nevis, just general political sense, if the numbers are not good, the numbers are not good for you, right? And it becomes a talking point. So, but it can work in your favor as well if the numbers start out not so good, and over your tenure, you can show the number increasing. So it is a plus and minus, but I think we have to get to the stage of maturity where we prepare to share information, much information as possible, with the general public, and let the general public make some informed decisions.
Yeah, I agree. But before we get all the way down into solutions, because we have an area for that, I've noted your suggestion as well. Tell me, how do you think businesses are starting?
Well, most definitely out of survival. I mean, right now, and we may see persons doing a lot of the same things because culturally, I mean, you're not going to see somebody pop up and say doing magician work, because it's not a cultural norm. Like for us, we are very limited even in school. Dance, just dance.
That's a stretch.
But Dan's just kind of getting in now. So we have like a list of stuff that kitchens do and that you know how to do. You know how to cook, you know how to do certain things, and that's like the pool that we pull from. So therefore, the economic activity will also reflect that. So then when you don't have any money, you're going to think, okay, what I could do? Okay. It's not that you have money so you can say, oh, let me do this and do that. And we had no idea that your organization existed. Mm-hmm. So you usually don't have any help. And in culturally, if you say, I'm going to do my own business, everybody going to tell you you're crazy, don't. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're just going to pull from what's in your closet, what's in your pocket already. I have some macaroni up there. My children say, my macaroni tastes good. That's why I could think about. I have gas. I don't have a car to start a delivery service. So who want food today, basically? So it's going to go out of things that we're used to seeing and used to doing and our skill set.
And you know to use WhatsApp.
Exactly. Right. So, I mean, for us now to get to the point of being really innovative and really thinking outside the box, that normally, well, invention, what is it, necessity is the mother.
Invention is mother
of all necessities, something like that.
Necessity is the mother of invention. Because it's normally when we run into a problem that we realize, oh, okay, so I need this now, right? So that's normally when we're going to look outside of what's, usual to us, and we have to solve that problem. So then you see a lot of people doing the same things because it's just easier, it's familiar, and sometimes you just need that money, your bill coming up at the end of the month, and you're not thinking, well, I got to be innovative, and I can't do shoe polishing like John because I can cut into his field. It's like, well, I could polish shoe too, and I hungry, what I going to do? I have a bill coming up, so I have to just do that. So that's what I find is happening. But on the flip side, though, I find that persons I know, due to the pandemic, due to being home, realizing, my God, I'm off the hamster wheel. Wow, there is something to this working for yourself. I'm not making $1,000, but we don't acknowledge the cost of work. You have to pay for lunch every day, clothing, you have to look at something like transportation. So when you work for yourself, you can control most of that. You're home, you're spending less, you eat less. And they're going, I'm making $200, but I'm feeling it more than when I was making the 1,000. Mm-hmm. I have more peace of mind. Yes, I'm not thriving in the sense that my bank account ain't going, I'm surviving, but mentally and looking, I'm kind of liking this thing. And then they start looking, well, how else can I improve it? What else can I do? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I find that some of them are kind of, they got into it for necessity, but they're starting to look at it long term now.
They're observing the benefits. Mm-hmm. And as something you said there, because it's very interesting, because just, I think it was yesterday, we all know the Olympics happening currently. And I think it was Donovan Bailey from Canada, sprint champ. He said when he got into it, when he was working in some, he wasn't doing athletics. He got into it when he observed some of his classmates, former classmates in college, running a race and winning the race. He said, well, I used to beat these guys in college. So what the hell are you doing in this job? Let me go and the guy did 6 years later, he won gold, and I think he had a record as well. Mm-hmm. But when I heard about it, I thought about the local context, which even pre-pandemic, you would see a lot of, say, boutiques, people selling almost the same thing. You're going on the street, and the three vendors selling almost. And what generally will happen is somebody may observe and say, okay, well, if they're popping up there, they're using the person's experience as market research. Yes. If they're popping up there, they must have a reason why they're selling these things. Yeah, so and I see people go sell them too. You know, and so we had this sort of a kind of a copycat research.
Yes, I agree. And it's not even research; it is, to me, going down the wrong road. It is because it's almost like, okay, let's think about it this way. When I was going to university, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to study law. Until when I got to age 19 and I was ready to go to university, I just saw lots of lawyers popping up, and I was like, okay, so if we have so many lawyers, what are you gonna do? Like, I just felt like the field was becoming saturated at that time, right? And then I just decided, okay, let me do something. I was one of 2 kitchens in a program of 600 and something students, right? So that is, to me, finding a niche area for my country to do it. And then in my third year, one more individual went and studied international relations. So how many people we have studying international? Not many, even though it was just one school, right? We have a larger population. There weren't many people doing it. So that's how I was thinking about it. And that's how I think people should start thinking about things, right? Because there's so many other things and needs. If you really talk to people and you want to start a business, even if you have the same idea as someone else, you might be able to find a way to deliver it in a different way. Absolutely. Or to alter the things that you do, right? So for me, based on my frequent interactions with small business owners in St. Kitts and Nevis, I think I'm going to rank, well, I would say I would put survival and passion together. You said something and I thought you were leading into it, but people being home have allowed them to even find new passions or discover some of their passions some more. So they want something to do, that survival mechanism starts to kick in, and they go like, okay, I like doing this, so let me see how this goes, right? But if we really were to think about it, I would actually, if I were to separate the two, I would, along with everyone else, survival first and passion second, with filling public needs as the least motivating factor. So I say this because many small business owners actually have full-time jobs, often looking for something else to supplement their income. So that's pre-pandemic, and then you still have that during the pandemic, because we're not over it as yet. That is something people are still working and still trying to make extra money, where they have reduced hours, reduced income in some sort of way, even if you're still working full-time, but you had to get a pay cut because of the state of the economy and that kind of thing. And then you have, so that attempt to survive before was just for cost of living, right? And then now it's just a means of survival. I need to pay my bills, so I'm going to do it, right? Yeah. Some of these small businesses survive due to passion. So a lot of people keep going because they're passionate about what they're doing, and that somebody is me. That somebody is me, because who owns a business that's making $0 for the past 3-4 months and not closing it, right? Who has been exactly? So these are the things that I'm thinking about, and when I talk to other business, they go like, "Oh, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna things gonna get better," with no things looking better anywhere near in sight, right? Especially if you've had, I mean, it may seem like a criticism, but an extended state of emergency to the end of the year. Again, limited movement, policy impacting our ability to make money and to be able to do things that we like, because we don't know whether or not we're gonna shut down the country again. So how do I know, or how do I predict, or how do I plan for my business to excel? But I am surviving due to mere passion, right? So that's kind of why I would have had both of them on the same level, but then you could dismount and put passion as second.
Well, I think you could more directly point to passion if it is a business you're passionate about in the first instance. Sometimes you get into business just as, if you're just in it for survival, you just figure out, I need to make some bucks. And you're not really too crazy about it. Yeah. Then when the times get hard, you don't really have much passion to pull from, or you just have to lean on survival. You say, well, what else I can do? You know, so sometimes that's just the situation.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and another thing is, I've not seen a lot of innovative small businesses. We've been talking about that. That is not to say that there aren't any, but we definitely see a lot of the same kinds of businesses targeting the same groups of people. So that's why I have fulfilling public needs or wants as the least motivating factor.
By far.
Because I'm not seeing, I'm not convinced that we are doing any research.
But again, what data you're acting on?
Yep.
You don't have if you don't
the
have
data
to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's true. Because I like to tell people you don't have any empirical evidence, so you should not say these things. But it is true, though. You see a lot of, before, I never got so many broadcast messages with food places, the options, like car rentals and all these things. And I'm like, huh? Like, isn't there anything else that I want? So when a young lady starts like a business selling candles or selling, and then somebody is selling essential oils, they're creating their own things, you go like, oh, wow, that's nice. We don't have that. Because if I go down the road somewhere, a Bath and Body Works candle is $60, $65, but you're selling me a whole candle set for $65 with all these different scents, with all these different essential oils, and you're a local business, I will support you. Yeah, and that kind of is a kind of a niche market in a sense because it's creative. It uses creativity. You are catering to personal needs, and especially in a time where people want to find ways to unpack all of this trauma that they're experiencing with this pandemic. It has been a creative avenue, and there are quite a few other things, but we know for sure, for me, that definitely fulfilling public needs and wants. I mean, we think everybody wants to eat, yes. We know everybody has to eat, so it sustains itself, as you would have said earlier.
It's whether they want to eat from you.
That's true, that's true.
I find also that, again, when that bill, that mortgage is facing you, persons are not looking at, is the market overcrowded, or they're not looking at long term, but it's just for the moment. But what happens is once they are able to find something that keeps them off of the breadline, that keeps them from going homeless, then they start finding ways, okay, how can I then invest this into that? But one of the challenges to why it's hard to find niche markets, like you said, you talked about essential oils and all that stuff. As a entrepreneur, it's not like you in the States where you can say, okay, maybe I can make these and run down Walmart and get some supplies. Sometimes even to produce these things, it takes you months of savings. You have to figure out, okay, I'm buying it twice. So even if I could afford to order it, I have to buy it back from customs when it comes, right? And then for some of us, like when you said you have not made any money for a year, I'm like, I feel for you. But then at the same point, I'm like, well, your life is good for most persons to have a business that makes no money for a year and not be homeless or in jail or prostitution.
Correct.
That's
why I do a million things. That's why I hustle.
You're diversified.
Yes, I'm a diversified individual.
So for me now, I come from like doing things with my hands. So as she said, we hustle, right? You could hustle a lot and you could I'm very, very self-sufficient. And I tell people I eat bush, right? I go to my yard and pick and eat. But for other persons now, who, especially if you have rent, people don't understand how the rent market in St. Kitts has left a lot of people desperate. It's so expensive. So I pay rent. The day before lockdown, my rent was due. I shing out that money. And then 2 weeks I made no money for the month before that. And then I came out of lockdown, went to my business, had to throw away everything, made no more money for 2 weeks, and then rent was due again. Right? So I mean, it's very, very desperate situation. So at the moment, even though you might say, well, I know I can do customized shoes or whatever, sometimes to even get to buy the supplies in St. Kitts, the reality is a lot of stuff not here. You have to bring in everything and you have to buy it back from customs, and then it's hard because then how you figure out how you have to secure the survival stuff first and then think about niche.
All right, so guys, that's the 12 o'clock mark for us. We've been here talking for an hour. I cannot believe it.
No.
Time is flying. We have to get in the news. I think we're going to be saying goodbye to one of our panelists, and hopefully we're going to have my very dear friend and co-founder, hopefully, Gian, putting on the spot right now to join the discussion. But we're going to go to the news and... We're going to go to the news, and we'll be back at 12:30.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribou.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution.
We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
With the WIN headline news,
I'm Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines.
Health officials identify 5 new COVID-19 cases. Active now stands at 50. Premier Brantley gives update on Pinny's Park.
Marketplace Excellence Report, including news on anticipated new aircraft for several Caribbean destinations. And COVID-19 and the Delta variant continue to present challenges and opportunities to the region. Internationally, flames swept through a residential town outside Athens overnight as wildfires burn across Greece for the 5th day on Saturday, and hundreds of people were evacuated by ferry from the island of Evia, east of the capital. Now, the details.
5 additional cases of COVID-19 have been identified, according to the St. Kitts and Nevis COVID-19 situation report issued 6 p.m. Friday, August 6, 2021. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws confirmed with WIN that these cases are local. 3 were identified on St. Kitts and 2 on Nevis, pushing the Federation's total active cases to 50. Confirmed cases in the Federation now stand at 611, of which 558 have fully recovered. Since the onset of the pandemic in March 2020, health officials reported 589 cases on St. Kitts and 22 for Nevis. 3 COVID-19 related deaths have been reported. The Pinny's Park in Nevis is set to open in December 2021. Bronte Swanston Hendrickson of the Nevis Newscast has the details.
And we now have a proposed opening date. Please put this in your calendar. December 15th, Wednesday, December 15th, 2021.
Premier the Honourable Mark Brantley gave an update on the Nevis Pinny's Park project at his most recent press conference. Premier Brantley is the Minister of Tourism in the Nevis Island administration.
Our signature project of this administration, the park at Pinnes, it continues to progress smoothly. Construction is now at 71.8%. Landscaping is at 56.5%. And we now have a proposed opening date. Please put this in your calendar, December 15th, Wednesday, December 15, 2021. That's the date that we hope we can unveil this incredible national initiative to the people of Nevis and the wider Federation.
The Ministry of Tourism is currently seeking to fill the post of manager of the recreational park.
The position of the manager for this park, we have of course advertised that position and have been interviewing persons. Thus far, we have some 65 persons who have responded to this job advertisement. 2/3 of these 65 are residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. But, members of the press, you should know that we've also received applications from Trinidad and Tobago, from Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent, Antigua, Statia, the USVI, the USA, and from as far away as Brazil and India. The successful applicant will be shortly announced. Vacancies for other positions at the park will also be shortly announced in the upcoming months.
Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Mark Brantley.
Thanks, Bronte.
In regional news,
hi there, I'm Keyshawn Haynes, and this is the Marketplace Excellence Caribbean Report. Several Caribbean destinations stand to benefit from increased arrivals as Frontier Airlines announces plans to strengthen its network by introducing new or expanded non-stop service beginning as early as this October. The low-cost carrier will serve or increase flights into Antigua and Barbuda, Aruba, Belize, Montego Bay, Jamaica, Nassau, Bahamas, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Turks and Caicos. These developments come on the heels of a strong summer performance for the airline. Travel designer Val Kalicharan shares what the news means to the Turks and Caicos tourism industry.
After a very strong rebound to our DMC business here in Providenciales in Turks and Caicos, it's really great to see new flights being planned for our islands. Whether it's low cost, legacy or charter carriers, or even additional lift benefits, our bread and butter here is really the tourism sector. Here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, both the private and public sectors are working collaboratively to share wonderful experiences with global travelers while ensuring compliance with COVID-19 protocols to keep everyone safe. And I feel that the vote of confidence in Turks and Caicos, and in fact several other Caribbean nations, speaks to the hard work that we have all been doing to protect our people and the visitors by efficiently containing the pandemic throughout all of this. Now, with the Delta variant being something to watch, we must continue the hard work and not rest on our laurels, because this pandemic is evidently far from over.
As the COVID-19 Delta variant continues to be a major cause of concern to public health experts around the globe, the Bahamas has taken steps to protect the health of those living in and visiting the archipelago. Effective today, August 6th, vaccinated travelers will need to provide evidence of a negative result from a COVID-19 PCR or antigen test taken within 5 days prior to arrival in the islands. A negative result from a PCR test taken within 5 days of arrival remains the entry requirement for unvaccinated travelers 12 years of age or older. Epidemiologist Dr. Karen Springer of Marketplace Excellence commented on the change in policy.
The change of policy in the Bahamas reflects the evidence that the Delta variant is highly transmissible, particularly among the non-vaccinated. Furthermore, there are also reports of a small amount of cases worldwide, even among the vaccinated population, who may become infected with the Delta variant. Countries worldwide should therefore remain vigilant regarding the changing dynamics of this virus and readily adjust their policies to reflect these changes.
we now bring you these international reports.
Wildfires in Greece raged overnight Friday as authorities struggled to contain 154 blazes across the country. The biggest fronts are still burning in the north of Athens, on the island of Evia, and in areas of the Peloponnese. Firefighters with water-bombing aircraft are battling to contain the flames, with high winds causing them to spread further. A 38-year-old man was killed on Friday by a falling electricity pylon in a suburb north of Athens. In the same area, police have been going door to door, urging people to evacuate their homes. The fires have already torn through thousands of acres of land, burning houses, destroying businesses and killing animals. Volunteers with an animal rescue organisation in the capital have been trying to rescue abandoned horses and dogs. This lady, who did not wish to be named, told Reuters 8 dogs were locked inside the centre. While this man says they found many dead animals and are trying to get 5 horses to safety. Meanwhile, on the island of Evia, hundreds of people had to be evacuated from beaches as fires burned through forest land all the way to the shore. Greece, like much of the rest of Europe, has been grappling with extreme weather this summer. In neighbouring Turkey, authorities are battling the country's worst ever wildfires. Flames have swept through its southwestern coastal regions, forcing tens of thousands of people to flee their homes. In Italy, hot winds fanned flames on the island of Sicily this week.
Just like you can't judge a book by its cover, you can't calculate the value of Venezuela's currency by the number of zeros that are added or subtracted. As of October 1st, this 100 Bolivar note will be the highest denomination, equivalent to today's 100 million Bolivar note. That means 6 zeros will be removed from a currency that has been so devalued by hyperinflation that it's become practically worthless.
This is only for the bus fare. The bolivars now are only useful for public transport, nothing else. Everything else is paid with US dollars.
Venezuela's currency costs much more to make than what it's worth. Inflation in the first 4 months of this year was nearly 300%, and last year it was 3,000%. That's why the country's de facto currency has become the US dollar. But millions of Venezuelans don't have access to it. By slashing 6 zeros off its currency, the government hopes to reinstate the widespread use of its own coin.
It has certain advantages, but these advantages don't generate benefits from a strictly economic point of view. That would require a series of measures to control inflation to avoid more reconversions of the currency.
The socialist government slashed 3 zeros from its currency in 2008 and 5 zeros in 2018. So Teogildo Gil is not optimistic that 6 will do the trick.
This is going to become what it's already become, as all the currencies here have become. They have all become worthless like this.
Venezuela has been experiencing its worst economic crisis in history. Reducing bills to single, double, or triple-digit denominations rather than millions will certainly make prices easier to calculate. But unfortunately, it won't make the embattled Bolivar more valuable. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
Health officials identify 5 new COVID-19 cases. Active now stands at 50. Premier Brantley gives update on Pinny's Park.
Marketplace Excellence Report, including news on anticipated new aircraft for several Caribbean destinations. And COVID-19 and the Delta variant continue to present challenges and opportunities to the region. Internationally, flames swept through a residential town outside Athens overnight as wildfires burn across Greece for the 5th day on Saturday, and hundreds of people were evacuated by ferry from the island of Evia, east of the capital. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribou.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow. tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
Just look at the post.
We're back from our break, and you're listening to Alarm Clock in collaboration with Win Media. For our special edition of Inside the News, we're talking economic recovery for small business. And some of you may be listening to us on Facebook or Periscope and via radio. If you are, we hope that you can give us a call, join the discussion, ask us a question, make a statement. It's 466-0989 or 762-0989 or 662-0989. I am Desi Brown. I've been moderating and also acting as a panelist in this discussion, co-founder of Alarm Clock. We had with us Mr. Delwyn Delaney from the Small Business Development Center. I'm hoping to share some more info again with you later in the discussion. We have Chevrich, an entrepreneur, Rodney Brown, entrepreneur, and we have just joined with us the other half of Alarm Clock, Jeanne Williams. I'm sure she's gonna rev things up for us. I am just, constantly putting on the spot, but she'll show up as usual. And we introduced ourselves, we spoke about why we started being entrepreneurs, we had some really good revelations about pre-pandemic and current issues related to the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses. And we've also looked at why are people starting businesses, and we've all come to the conclusion, actually we have the opinion that they're starting because we don't have data to support that fact, right? That businesses are being started for survival, especially now, right? We have a very, we're talking COVID-19, how could we, this is a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. So I'm just going to jump into it. Perspectives on mandatory vaccination as business owners. You do not have to if you don't want to comment. Let me just put that out there. Did you feel pressured from customers to take it or mandate it?
Starting with me? It's funny when you I have to behave when you were saying it, I was going to my mind was anyways. But absolutely not. And sometimes I wonder.
Absolutely not what?
I was not pressured. Okay. I did not feel pressured in any way. I started out when this whole thing started, of course, I was very opinionated about it and stuff. And as time has gone along, I've had my reactions and I've, been able to observe. And first of all, no one in an authoritative position from government or anywhere has ever said anything to me as a small business owner in relation to that, whether it be for myself or employees or anything. So I've not felt that pressure. And I'm starting to realize a lot of that pressure to me, again, this is my personal experience, is more so in the social space. It's kind of like, it's what's being talked about, but the reality is not really so much so. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's a matter of your vibe attract your tribe, but I've not attracted customers that are concerned about that either. Mm-hmm. I don't wonder, what's going on? Everybody around me feel the same way I do? Am I manifesting on such a strong level? Mm-hmm. So I've not had experiences with that on that super personal level. I know people who have experiences with that, mm-hmm. but it's not been that way for me. And then nobody tell me anyways.
Because you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself.
Exactly.
Right. I get that, because we've seen a lot of talk about mandating vaccinations, mm-hmm. how that has been causing the region to the world. Mm-hmm. Yes, not just the region, because mm-hmm. in France, Italy, everywhere, so it's everywhere. They are demonstrating against mandatory. France for sure is a big one.
And Martinique, all the French territories.
And they did it recently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mm-hmm. They're burning tires and things on there against any decision mm-hmm. to be made about vaccination, mandatory vaccination. Mm-hmm. But Rodney?
Likewise, I haven't experienced any pressure from anyone, any entity in terms of vaccination, mandatory vaccination. I have seen and observe certain activities based on my interaction with clients. I had one specific interaction where I had to, as a subcontractor for a client, me along with a few other subcontractors, we had to pay a visit to a site to observe and make certain assessments, etc. And the client, the experience was such that we were met at the premises, the entrance of the premises, by the occupant, and the person presented and said and inquired, I have some medical issues, and for my own mental and personal preference, I would prefer if only vaccinated people enter the premises. So she asked us if we were vaccinated, we were fine with sharing our status. But I don't want to promise you my status. I am vaccinated, but the client I was dealing with was not vaccinated, and so it was a situation where the client couldn't enter the premises with subcontractors because the other person was also vaccinated. So I asked the client, well, it's your call if you want to leave or if you want us to go in and deal with whatever. So the client said, let's go in and deal with it. Now, after the whole session, met with the client and we discussed. We have a very good relationship, so we met and we discussed and we observed the whole situation. Obviously, she wasn't very happy, the client, but we both agreed the person, occupant, had the right for their environment to determine who they want in their environment. Our issue was that knowing your preference or knowing your arrangement, it would be good and it would be courteous to present advance notice that this is the situation. So we were both on the same page, and so it was not a good tasting experience in the fact that the person had an opportunity to share that previous and they waited at the last minute. So, but I think it's a situation where it's what this whole experience has revealed to me is the human nature of fear. And it's fear across the board in terms of how we react to fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty, fear of whatever the case may be. I think I am sympathetic, although I can be critical of governments. I am sympathetic in general to the government's reality in the sense that the major fear for government, I think, is fear of disruption, because governments, by and large, are the largest employers. Government is a firm. It has departments, people employed, and generally, in almost all cases, the government is the firm in terms of individually employing people, the largest firm. And so when there's a potential for disruption, there's always a concern. How do you mitigate against potential disruption? And then the balance is that you have to consider people's personal and human rights, and how that balances into the whole equation of being able to deliver whatever is expected of you as a system, as a firm. So I think I am not envious of any government in any country in the world right now dealing with the current situation of the pandemic, because you're going to have all sorts of different variants. It will come down to how you communicate with the people, what policies you put in place, and how well you could explain the rationale for the policies. I think those would be the key aspects. But it is an unpredictable situation. It changes quite frequently. So but coming back to the initial question, I haven't personally, and I haven't had much experience with persons feeling pressured one way or the other, whether to reveal, disclose, or to participate in being vaccinated.
Okay, well, I've been in the uncomfortable situation in the past few weeks about being asked if my team is vaccinated because of the upcoming events, activities, right? It has been very uncomfortable for me because I am not mandated, because I do not believe in mandatory vaccination, because I do believe, I think that COVID-19, we all know, it is a threat to public health system in the Federation. I really don't believe that people should be forced to do anything, because we do have a right to govern our own bodies, right? I've observed that there are other medical issues such as hypertension, diabetes, that continue to plague our society, have been a part of our public health agenda to reduce the instances of persons being affected by these non-communicable diseases, but we have not made their non-pharmaceuticals and pharmaceuticals mandatory, right? So it's a bit of a sticky situation for me. I've never said any of this publicly. I might get hit
Breaking
for
news.
it. I am going to get flagged for it because of the position that I am currently in to try to get. I'm going to publicly say I have not made an effort to have my team vaccinated. There are about 40 young persons that work under the promotional arm for Poisascan. I have not said to them, guys, go and get vaccinated so you can get work. I've said this is an option available because this is what people are asking for. I'm not mandating it. Right. It is up to you if you feel like you will benefit. But I'm going to share why I got vaccinated, because it has nothing to do with my work. It had to do with my health. So I took the vaccine because of my own research and my own health situation. So I am asthmatic, and I would like to, in the instance of ever having to contract COVID-19, that I would be able to reduce the impact that it would have on my respiratory functions, right? As it is a respiratory illness. So I deal with children and parents. I have not mandated any vaccination or feel pressured to do so in any way. I think I'm feeling pressured now, but but I will not be mandating it at all, because people have their reasons. Even if some people feel like at the age of 18 to how old are they, 25, they may not really understand why they're making the decision not to. I still think that they have a responsibility to themselves to be able to research, understand. If they don't understand and they're hesitant, if they don't believe it and they're hesitant, that's all still a good reason.
And they don't have any underlying
conditions. Yeah,
serious
reason too. So they don't have, because mine was for underlying conditions of being asthmatic, right? And not just because I want to work in an environment where it is being mandated that we be vaccinated for any reason at all. So I really do believe that we need to respect people's opinions, and I really don't believe in it.
Sorry, you going to say something?
No.
Oh. No, I was going to say I 200% agree. In terms of, I can't imagine being in a situation where someone tells me, that in order for you to keep your job, you have to do something that you may be vehemently opposed to. The tricky situation, because I always like to play devil's advocate with myself. Even when I may be thinking something, this is where I try to see how I could make an argument on the opposite side. And when you think about an operation where, let's take an example of you looking to catch a flight. It's critical. You need to get out at a specific time. It's very, very time sensitive, etc. You're waiting, you get an announcement, flight cancelled. You're going to say, what a bumper, right? What's going on? Maybe they're going to reveal that, well, a quarter of our staff is sick, right? Now, a business entity like that, having that experience, they're going to get a lot of flack. You're not going to say you want the names of the staff so you could go and cuss them out. You're cussing out the business. So the business is looking, how can I mitigate against that disruption, because our business survival is based on delivering a service. If it comes down to the point where they realize, okay, well, most of our, I'm not talking about just about COVID, but I'm just talking about a situation where you say most of our staff are not in a position to deal with if there is a breakout in the company. We might have to shut down a department, whatever the case may be. There's always a chain reaction that we don't really appreciate until we are experiencing the chain reaction ourselves. And so I think sometimes it's a personal decision, it's a human rights decision really. But there are impacts where a business is a business where if you can't get paid from the business because the business said, well, we haven't been able to do X amount for 3-4 months. I'm not talking about big businesses that may have good surplus. I'm talking about medium, small businesses that may have a tight, and that's the only operation. They try things they can. People have to figure out the balance where, I will say straight up, we're operating, we're dealing in a market where if you're sick and you can't perform for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, it could have a critical impact on the other staff because we don't have somebody to fill your spot. We don't have the depth in our staff. One person is sick, we could just fill it. As an entrepreneur, if you have somebody assisting you and the person gets sick, it's you filling that slack, which is why entrepreneurship could be so stressful if everything falls on you. So you could make a determination how you want to operate. When you're part of a team and things are falling on you and there is no backup, the businesses have to make a determination. Contingency, mitigation. And it's a balance that we have to figure out. It's just hard facts in terms of business operation.
Yeah, I mean, I understand those positions. They're not being communicated in that way. That was an excellent communication of how.
Maybe I should be hired.
of how businesses are dealing are being confronted by this COVID-19 pandemic and the hard decisions that they have to make about mandatory vaccination, right? That was really good. Like, I've not heard or seen that. Like, they're just saying we need to protect our staff as opposed to actually trying to maybe communicate it in a better way.
And frankly, I don't think a lot of it is I would need to hear from the staff in general, like a survey of staff to say if it's really, I'm concerned about my health, I prefer if other staff members are vaccinated. I think, again, frankly, from a business standpoint, you care about your staff, I would hope, but you're also thinking about avoiding disruption.
Right.
And if anything that creates disruption is potential for, whether you're a business owner or your employee, is stress. Because you know how to figure out if you don't have contingency measures in place, you're pulling your hair out trying to figure out this person waiting on a cake. The baker's sick or the thing's sick, you promise them this double-decker, triple-decker cake for the birthday. They don't have an excuse about it. They may be able to empathize and say, sorry. They eventually come on and say, sorry, you're sick and you get better. But the first reaction is, wait, the first reaction is, where the hell my kid? I'm paying for the service. I don't want your excuses.
Correct. But one question I would have though, being in the field that you're in, I imagine that your employees have a certain level of skill, right? So the question I'd ask myself with some of these employers who have to make that decision is, St. is a very small place, right? And certain jobs require certain skill set.
Correct.
And then I understand what you're saying about disruption. But what if you were to come upon the situation where the most skilled, or majority of the most skilled persons in your establishment do not want the vaccine and they leave? How easy is it for you to replace them? And isn't that a disruption as well? Of course.
And
I find that this part of the argument is not ever really discussed.
That is a very valid.
The cake might be there, but the cake ain't what quite. Because the person who did the cake the best, you got rid of them, and now you have a cake that look like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Like, come on.
I mean, it's is a fair point, and I think, and that's why it's always important to hear all sides and you figure out, because it's not necessarily that there's a right and wrong. It's just different circumstances. It could be very complex, because even in a situation like that, personally, my personal thing is that I don't think I have a right to tell anyone, I think this is what Daisy was getting at with her staff, to tell anyone what they should, this is a life-determining situation in terms of your future, whether for whatever side you fall on, for or against. I don't think I could tell you how I deal with it, how I feel about it personally, how will I see it in the world and business, but for you, I'm not going to try to influence you. I have family members who are opposed to vaccination for one reason or the other. I don't have any argument with them. They have the reasons and whatever. I am not going to make it my mission to try to convince you. One reason, you make it for, if you're an adult, you make a decision, right? The situation is that we just have to, on both sides of the aisle, be prepared to deal with whatever consequences.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know, vaccinated, we don't know if in 2 years we're going to go extra head. You know? If it happens, we have to figure out how to deal with that.
Yes.
Unvaccinated, if something contracts and you can't deal with it, we have to figure out how to deal with that. You know, but as adults, we just have to accept that there are consequences across the board.
I personally feel that, like people might think I'm always upset about this, but it's very exciting for me because to me it's a place we've come to in our society where we have to mature past certain points. As you said, it's not a yes or no answer, and we are learning as a people how to get over these things. So my thing is like, I think government coming in and trying to strong arm people into finding a solution, I think that's not necessarily the best bet. I think that governments globally need to realize you have to have faith in your populace at some point. You see, when you went to the job and the lady said, well, I'm not comfortable, that wasn't government in there saying, ticket, punish. It wasn't like that. It was people in a situation negotiating and coming to a solution respectfully and empathetically with one another. And I think that if that is given more, if people get more opportunity to do that, they will realize that the populace will react and will be able to solve. This is a social issue, you know. They're treating it as if it's like laws, you go to jail. But to me, it's social. I have persons who I care for dearly, who are vaccinated. I have persons who are not. And I am not going to throw away my friend who is vaccinated. And I can understand where they're coming from. And they must, in part, understand me. And we have found ways around this difficult situation. But then if you had a third party there in between the conversation, you know, you're wrong and you're right, it makes it much more difficult. And I think that that's one reason why it's playing out so long. They need to have faith in the populace. And we have families that have both vaccinated and unvaccinated. We are going to figure it out. We don't need the belt over our shoulders for us to figure it out.
Interesting perspective.
Yep.
Very interesting perspective, and I can agree with both of you.
I know you have other things to do.
Yes.
So
Vaccination is going to I was just about to say. Let's. So now that we've covered, one of us is having a hard time, feeling a little bit of pressure, you know, to have the team vaccinated so that they could be employed, and then you have two individuals who don't feel pressured by any customers at all for being vaccinated. But let's talk about economic recovery plan. Let's get into who are the players we should be looking at, or looking towards in crafting an economic recovery plan for small business. Who are these people? Who do we need to be talking to?
To the people, well, first of all, to the people who actually are operating small business. What?
Yeah, I think so.
Not just people who are looking on and like, well,
the people who are in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
The voice, I think one of the voices that has been sorely missing from the discussion, as Chev said, the small business owners. We hear Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and we think that represents small business or business generally, not recognizing that the chamber has a very small percentage of represent a very small percentage of businesses in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, what we really one of the things that I think needs to happen is that small business owners need to gather themselves and start an association or some sort of lobbying, to get some sort of lobbying power, because they are the majority. They represent the majority when it comes to business. Chamber is always an option, but perhaps people might feel more comfortable with other cottage industries or, sole proprietor business or something like that. but that voice is sorely missing, and it's sad that it's the majority and it's missing.
And it's not organized.
One of the things, before Mr. Delwin left, he would have mentioned that the Small Business Development Center has 1,000 businesses registered with them, which I think is actually much more than the.
And that's only who've gone to SBDC.
Right.
So
and that's
not
only
even everybody.
I have not gone, so I'm not registered. Chev has not gone, she's not registered. Rodney have not gone, so that's 3. That's 3 businesses that's not registered. So they could have 1,003 or they could have 2,000, right? But they don't, because 3 of us are missing and the rest, 900 and something, right? 90 something people are not there. 97 people are not there to make up 2,000. So it's really, I do agree with Gian. I actually have that down as well. We need a small business association. I don't think we have any. Chev, I know you're doing some work.
Yeah. we actually we recognize this, and during the lockdown, a group of us came together, and we're still in, the starting out stages, but that's the goal, because as much as I'm very vocal again about what I feel is being perpetrated against, small business and so forth, I still also have to take responsibility for our actions. And if you look at the Indian community, they are represented, they come together. Well, we know what's going on with the Chinese. They're together by default. But then we are not out there representing ourselves. And again, traditionally, we are not coming from a culture where entrepreneurship was pushed or looked as something to aspire to until very recently. So I can't really say that, there wasn't a reason for that. But right now, we are seeing the need for it more than ever. And we are basically, I'm just going to throw it out there, like, if anybody want to contact us, I'll have to give my number for the time being, because we're not super established as yet, but we're working on it.
Before you give your number, you don't have a Facebook page or anything?
Yes, yeah.
Let's just do that. We don't want any stalkers.
That is true. So you can find me at Chevrich on Facebook. That's CHEV space RICH, Chevrich. And we do have a Facebook group that we just started. It's not an open group as yet.
Okay.
But we do add members, and
you can make it public and then add.
So they can contact you in the first instance.
Yes. And then get some.
Yeah. The reason why we didn't make it public initially, because at the time the whole vaccine and we don't like these people here, and it was so much that. Right now, every discussion gets hijacked by vaccine.
Yes.
We were kind of just adding people, letting them know, okay, this is what it's about, and
we're not here for that.
All right. So we've established. You have something that you want to say, Ronnie?
Yeah, in relation to, because I think we had maybe one of the listeners who had experience from way back, because we had a small business association like donkey years ago, what we would say donkey years, maybe 30 plus years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and I guess it just fizzled out. But there have been attempts. There was a small business, what was it called, for a small business something, this was like maybe over 10 years ago, that again tried to start up a small business association. They got a few members, but then it, again, kind of fizzled out. So I'm 200% behind Siobhan's effort. I wish her all the best of luck, in terms of not just luck, but it's going to require a lot of hard work. But it is something that is needed. But what I found is, because I was a part of a part of a group from years back, that, and it's a pity Delwyn left, because we initiated through Ministry of Trade in trying to assist associations being formed, essentially. And in the initial stages of that, because when we first, I'm no longer a part of the chamber. I'm not saying I won't be a part in the future, but I was a part of the chamber as a business owner years ago. And one of the things I used to encourage small businesses, because we didn't have an association, was join the chamber. If there's no other alternative, if you're not prepared to form something, and be vocal. Because what used to happen is that I would go to the chamber would send out a message to members, all members. Meeting that to discuss XYZ. You go to the meeting, and 9 out of 10 times, 90%, 95% of the attendees at the meeting is the established businesses. It's not that somebody at the door saying, who you be? Go. Once you're a member of the chamber, you go into the, but the people the small businesses were like, I ain't no sense me going to that meeting because they're gonna say what I'm saying and then something go to the meeting and then they sit down and they say So you have to be prepared. It's not just fine to, you could essentially, I have good friends in the chamber, but I'll say, you could essentially go and do a takeover of the chamber. If you get 120 small businesses to join the chamber tomorrow, you could decide how you want to frame the executive, etc., but what I tell people all the time is prepare for hard work and make sure that people are prepared to do hard work in your team.
And
Because talk is cheap.
I think besides, you see, we talk a lot. I've always said that. I've eliminated myself from spaces. I've just had to decide not to be a part of spaces because of the lack of action, right? But there's a lack of fight I find in our federation. We are discontent with something. We type it on Facebook once. We don't hear about it again for the rest of the year. We argue about it for 7 days or 9 days sometimes, in some instances. You don't hear about it again for the next 5 years until the election come. And these are the things, the fight we are not willing to fight. Like I've spoken to people about my business and how much I've not been benefited, how much, not even for me, it's not me. When I talk about my business is generally almost for the people that are part of it, right? It could be I've been asked to consider it, to try to get it into their social enterprise space as opposed to considering it a business because of the way it impacts people and the way people benefit from it more than I do as an individual, right? And what I get from it is just gratification in a sense. And that's why I do so many other things, right? To be able to survive. But what are we, it's difficult for me to understand why people don't fight for the things that they love. I don't know. Like you start now.
We don't like opposition. We don't like people not liking us. We don't like the fact that people argue against us. So I'm going to come out and I say, I think this vaccination thing has shown you who can argue and who can't argue and what people's responses have been. Like who chooses to just put their head in the sand or who chooses to come out and argue every day. Every day. But I think what I see a lot, what you were talking about is that we talk about things for 7 days is you put out your position. So for example, Chev is going to come out and say we're going to start a small business. And then here comes at least one Johnny come lately and say, well, what she know about Small Business Association? She can't do this, she can't do that. And who she be, and what make this, and all kind of things, and people can start to attack her and question her. And maybe not Chev, but somebody else would be like, you know what? I was just trying to do something good for people, I was just trying to do it. And since I want it, I done.
Yeah.
But you see,
that's like one person to chase you?
One person.
But you see what that shows is that we have the fight, but we have the fight for each other. In terms of fighting weak fights where it's more on personalities and it's so easy to just type something on social media, criticize or just whisper something else here and try to derail a process that for whatever reason you don't have, it could just be some real petty stuff you don't have any confidence in. But to me what we lack a lot of, because we are very emotional people in St. Kitts. I remember someone from another Caribbean territory said, there was a consultant who came in and it was just so funny. He said, boy, you all aggressive here? I said, what do you mean? He said, man, I driving through town, and I see these two guys in each other's face, going at each other, and then I swear big fight gonna break out. And then at the end of the day, laugh, ha ha ha, and then start to hug up and so I said, how we express ourselves generally, sometimes you think that if you don't know the culture, you may think people, even when someone, why are you doing la 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 la? And somebody, that's my cousin, la la la.
Big face.
Yeah. And it has some negative elements to it in terms of, but we are very passionate, emotional people in terms of how we express ourselves, and sometimes it overtakes how we present certain things. But I think what we lack is organization.
Yeah.
And an understanding of the work needed to organize. It's not just a matter of getting 5 friends, 10 friends saying, we all believe in this, let's go and do it. It's a long haul. You have to have a plan, and you have to have a plan B, C, D going online. That takes work. It takes getting the right people to do the work. And I think we lose track of that.
Well, I mean, we come from a very individualistic culture. We're not oriented to be in groups as the Indians are, as the Chinese are, as you used for reference earlier, Chev. That is also the kind of work we need to do to understand how important it is to be each other's pillars of strength. Because there's no way that we could go through doing things. I mean, I have a lot of small business friends who message me and just complain about the fact that other small business people are only reaching out to them now when there's nothing happening, but when they're doing well, you don't hear from them at all, right? And it is, everybody feels the need to come together in hard times and not try to come together when we can all flourish at the same time. So there's so many things besides doing the work and doing the research. The work also has to do with ourselves, overcoming some cultural differences, issues, morals, standards, whatever it is we are currently dealing with. Because being individualistic does not allow us to move together as a group, to accomplish things the way we want to achieve the goals of creating an action plan, to action things as a group at all. It disrupts everything because everybody, and then somebody says, you're a part of a group, and then they go, man, you got other people who could do the things in the group when in fact, if all 10 of us were really here, the 10 minds, the 10 hands, and let's think of it as a construction site. There's so many different roles when you're building a building, right? Everybody does not have the same skill set, and it requires the group to get the work done, right? In whatever stages. One group comes in, one group leaves, one group comes in, and if we function in that way, like a construction site, like building a massive building that we need to house ourselves and to house all of our differences so that we could actually look together, feel together, and accomplish things together, then I think we would move better in a forward direction.
I've had a very interesting experience since coming out and doing lives and so forth. And I tend to be very vocal, but in real life, well, personally, I'm very kind of off in my own world, in a sense. But doing these lives, the constant messaging and the constant, people coming at me and telling me things and stuff, it start giving me a better picture of what's going on. And I've learned a lot that I really didn't notice before. For one, we have a problem with self-esteem issues in St. Kitts. And I think that because we are so academically driven society, and I know we had this discussion, I myself, coming from that, academics is all sort of background, and through my life and being in the arts, really realizing that I've had to change the way I speak and change the way I interact with a broader spectrum of people, and realizing that a lot of the times, because we're into a lot of bureaucracy and things must be done a certain way, must adopt the protocols that's previously established, what we do is alienate a lot of persons who are not necessarily unintelligent. Everybody's intelligent, but there's a lot of self-esteem issues going on. So when they go to the chamber and they see somebody like the head of Rams, it's not just intellectual intimidation that's going on there. It's, they have money, nobody gonna listen to me. So I find, even again, doing the lives, you would see that in between my cousin, I try to educate people and to empower them, because I realize that is something that is very severely missing. But then if you look at the whole of us as a people, of where we are coming from, you know, and people don't like me to go back to slavery, but I do. Because even the way we socialize our children, we are coming from a place of being property. Our point was not important. Our opinion did not matter. So now we are telling people, well, your opinion matters, but your mother tell you, hush your mouth. Don't question nothing. The teacher say you this. So all these things have conditioned us to be the type of people that we are. But you are also seeing, through you have, you know, exposure to the internet and a lot of these different spiritual things coming about, people are starting to realize, well, I might have something to say, but they're not going to run out the woodwork with a big, loud, booming voice. They're going to sneak in your inbox and say, well, I don't think, and then you watch them as they get bolder. So even in this organization, I put myself kind of on... I wasn't telling anybody about it because I'll be honest, it was sort of like a safety net for me, kind of feeling out the people in it, and if it ain't work out, well, nobody know.
That's fair.
But kind of put myself on the spot and realizing that even the way we organize the organization has to be different. The usual hierarchy of positions that cannot come into play with this, because then it just monkeys up everything, and people, oh, well, me and the president, and they're gone in the corner, and they feel every idea they have don't matter. So we have a structure more like a cell where we don't really want to assign positions per se, but to make sure that it's more equal. Like, this person did this last week, it's your turn to do something. You know, it's more, that's more of what we're trying to look into, because it'll really monkey it up. You might have an official name because you go out in the outside world, somebody wants to know who is the president, who is whatever. But dealing with people in the federation.
But if I could make a recommendation or a suggestion, I don't think it necessarily has to be the conventional president, vice president, whatever. But there are certain tasks that need to be done. So, for example, you're going to have to do your minutes so that people, there's records of what's discussed. Somebody's going to have to be, or some people, like you can have committees or so, and everybody's on a committee. Somebody's going to have to talk to the public, or some people are going to have to talk to the public. So you figure out what tasks need to be done, rather than perhaps putting the conventional titles on it. But what often strikes me is something that you were talking about, where somebody who's a particular job might not feel comfortable going to the chamber because they speak raw dialect all the time. They might not understand what certain words mean, but the content of what they're saying is so important and so innovative. We really need to pay attention to that. What I think we need to see more of is people joining their skills and their resources. So Desi writes well. Siobhan has ideas, she just can't write them down well. So Siobhan and Desi need to meet and somehow craft what needs to be said in a sophisticated way that the chamber is going to accept, or is going to accept easier. I think we spend a lot of time wanting people to come where we are. And I think that's something that, somewhere that we lose out. Yes, it would be nice if people would come off of their high horses, but the fact of the matter is they're probably not going to. So what I think we need to do is kind of bring people together to build us. Rather than waiting for them to come down to us, let's start to walk on each other and hoist up each other so that we could make representations wherever we go. But we don't see that. We just say, well, you know, Desi got a degree. So I think that's like the discussion we were having. This person has a degree, so you know, they're not gonna listen to us, or this person ain't down to earth, or did this or did that. But the truth of the matter is, this person could really help you to get where you want to go, but we don't have that level of partnership.
Well, what I've found as well, because I've been in even that position, like in a particular group especially, which brought me a lot of pain and anxiety, where coming in and having ideas and actually organizing, feeling that everybody would see how easy and importance of it, and being accused of, well, because you got certain qualification, only you there listen to, nobody has study us, you know? So, but then what happened is too,
So you're supposed to feel guilty of your accomplishments.
yeah, but what happened is too is that I understand what Jan is saying about coming up and partnering with people, and you know, but what I had to do too as a person in that position is to also consider they may have a point as well, right? And consider where they're coming from, and especially where the majority of people. What really hit me was the majority, the numbers, right? And I had to start to say, well, you can't just assume because you understand this, I are able to do this, that they don't warrant that same attention and all of that. So I not only would have to tell them, well, bring yourself up, as I said, it's about empowering them and trying to ease them out and encourage them to come up and to that level. But it's also about the people up there who are perceived to be up there, coming down, which really happens as well. And realizing, like, for instance, when I was in school, communication was huge for me. I'm a huge English, literature, everything that. And I always knew that the point of communication is to successfully share information. So if you know 25 of the biggest words in the world, but you're talking to a group of people who know 5, what are you using the other 20? Isn't the point to communicate effectively? You're not going to lose your intelligence. You're not, because you're not showing off all of that. So I'm saying sometimes they need to come up as well, but sometimes we need to meet them as well. And I find that doesn't happen.
One of the things that I've realized that our society does, though, we put people on a pedestal that don't even want to be on it, right? Like I have people around me that I work with that I find to be approachable. But then because of their position in society, people put them way further than where they are, if you understand what I mean. They think about it that way as well, because they've expressed that to me, saying that I don't understand why people place me here when I'm just here. And they've been easy to work with, easy to talk to. And it's just a matter of, there's something we cannot eliminate, which is people's perception.
Yes.
Correct.
So even if you go into a room and I don't ever expect anybody to come down to my level if I think that they are up and on a level above me. I'm going to publicly say it. I never think that anybody is a level above me. I just see all of us as human beings doing what we're supposed to do and acting in roles that we're supposed to be acting in.
But there's some bureaucracy.
There is, because we have structure. We have government officials. We have people in different. And then we fight a lot about this non-traditional and traditional work, because sometimes they don't see people like me important, because I'm a creative and I don't do things that's every day. Don't go do the same thing and write paper and
don't have
represent
an 8
people,
to 4.
right? So they do put creative people in a box. Even IT people they put in a box, and I find IT people to be some of the most brilliant people out there. They could do things. They could do things that I could never imagine. Like I'm like, I could think it, but I could never do it. Like I know what could the computer do this, or could we do this, or could I create this? And then they're like, sure, easy peasy. And I'm like, well, I don't even know where to start. So right, but there are those perceptions we cannot eliminate. I don't think that I could ever be in a group and encourage people to want people to come down. There is something that I've learned in organizational behavior, which is to develop an organization culture where you teach and empower people to be and represent themselves, right, all the time. And then it is, if you create an image of, okay, if you're working for big companies, there is going to be, you're always going to have politics. Politics, not partisan politics, but like you said, the bureaucracies and all that thing, it's going to exist because there are going to be hierarchies. There are going to be people in positions that are perceived to be higher than you. but it does not make them unapproachable, right? Somebody might be unapproachable, but unless you approach them, you might never know, right? And that's the thing, it's the courage. We need to have more courage and step forward. I understand that there is perception, and that's the thing. It's the push. You have to constantly push people, because even with me, I am very personable with my girls and my young men that I work with, but I still have a few of them that come and say, I was afraid to tell you. But I always understand.
Story of
I was afraid to tell you this. I didn't know how you would react, so then try. Right? Find out how I would react about it first. But in general, I empower them. I tell them, come, talk to me about it. Let me know, because it's worse than not knowing. Right?
And part of it is... Go ahead.
Well, for me, my personality, I'm very quiet when I'm outside. Like, even people telling me they were afraid to do certain things. Personally, I don't really understand that. I don't fear people per se, right? So it's always like a shock to me every time I have to deal with people. You're going through something, but you're not standing up for yourself. It's very hard. But I had to learn as well. For me, like even with the organization and stuff, what I'm looking at, when I walk through St. Kitts and I realize that majority of the businesses that are coming now are not from, I don't even want to say indigenous, because none of us are or whatever, but from the local black people. We are being marginalized even more, and we're not seeing it. So for me, I understand what you're saying and stuff, but realizing that a lot of people do have this issue, I had to say, okay, yeah, it would be nice. And when I talk to them, I try my best, and I'm not easy. I'm strict in a way, getting them to understand that you have to pull yourself up and all of that. But then at the same point, I have to realize that there's too much at stake for me to say, well, you want to empower yourself, I'll leave you behind. I can't, because when I look at it, I'm still a black person living in St. Kitts. Right now, somebody was telling me about prime property in St. Kitts, and it's being purchased like wildfire, and it's not by us, right? So these are the things that keep me up at night. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, if there's a few of us up here who are capable and could be doing so much more, because I find a lot of intellectuals in St. Kitts are highly underutilized, right? But then you have the majority of people down here and there's this gap and there's this miscommunication. We owe it to one another to meet each other halfway, and we have to pull them up, but we also have to realize, okay, if persons are afraid to talk to me, a lot of people say, I'm intimidated to talk to you, look stuck up. I get that all my life, right? All my life. But I have to realize now that, okay, put on that extra smile. If you're going into this, be a little bit more accommodating, you know? And it's not just about bringing down your level, no, but it's about making the ease of access to you a little bit better, because
increasing your warmth.
Yes, there's too much at stake. And there's the hierarchy and all that stuff, but does it work for us, right? And for me, one of the things that is hard for me is that persons look at life and society by the structure that already exists. I am kind of warped in my brain that I look at it as what it could be. And just because something is an established norm, if it don't work for me, it ain't established. I know I'm kind of radical that way, and I had to come to terms with that throughout my life. That's why I'm so quiet. But it doesn't exist if it's not working, and especially if it's not working for the majority. Just because it's what is there and is accepted, that don't mean it right, and it needs to be re-evaluated. That's my view.
All right, Rodney, and we're going to, after your comment, we're going to wrap up this. We've explored the issues with small business associations in general, and why is it difficult for us to come together. But Rodney, and then we move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that what would work well is a platform where you have the meeting of the various voices, perceived levels, etc. And we actually have a platform, but perhaps it is not. Let me just say, the platform is the National Consultation on the Economy, which started with the previous administration, and it has been continued into the current administration. I attended twice, one with the previous and one with the current. At the National Consultation on the Economy, you have generally a wide cross-section. So you have from students in CFBC, farmer represented, people in different sectors, lots of government, permanent secretaries, etc., and government ministers also in attendance. The last one I attended, which was in 2019, I don't think I had one last year. I stood up, and in contrast to the first one I attended, which was probably maybe 6-7 years prior to that, I wasn't as confident publicly to be vocal in terms of sharing my ideas. But I stood up even with that one, the first one I attended, during the previous admin, and voiced my ideas and whatever concerns I had. And I did it again this time around. But so I think that platform is a good platform. Whether it is, it maybe needs to move out of government's management per se, because the perception may be that it is too tightly managed by government. Whether it is or not, that might be the perception. But I think the model is a good model in terms of getting a wide cross-section, no matter the level, the area. If there's a theme to focus on, you get the people there, you say, this is the theme we're looking at, and let's get some ideas. My primary criticism of and maybe it's an unfair criticism because shortly after that we had COVID coming in early 2020, was that I got the impression that some of the ideas shared were not necessarily seriously considered. So that is something that I think we need to be worked on, where you don't feel like you're just there just for show.
So that takes us into government. So government is a player that is involved in crafting economic recovery plans for small businesses. So we said Small Business Association, we said what we needed to do, what is the role of Small Business Association, coming together, lifting each other up, and stuff like that. But government now, what can government do? What is the role? We need to get through this quickly. We're now almost 20 past the hour of 1. Since I've jumped into this part of the discussion, I'll just go ahead and say, I think we need a plan. For years, we've been preaching the benefits of entrepreneurial activity to the people, but we are hardly doing anything to save them, and government's role. I want to reiterate what Delwayne said that the Small Business Development Center is doing. They create business plans, they assist with duty-free, they help with market research, training through workshops. They do also grant proposal writings, and so forth, and they're governed by the Small Business Development Act of 2009, and hoping soon to probably get an update of that. And they're working assiduously to try to find areas to assist small businesses. I'm guessing those that are registered with them. So if you're a small business and you're listening, then it's probably a good idea for you to probably sit down with someone at the Small Business Development Center, help them to restructure, because he did mention that they have been helping individuals to take a look at their business plans if they had been in business for a while, and how they could create or innovate within their spaces. Now, I'm saying government, I always believe, and we just mentioned a policy, small business development, the law that governs what they do. So to create policy is definitely, for me, the role that government has to play. Creating policy that reacts to economic crisis and uses its network of resources to provide aid, technical support, and training to small businesses on a larger scale. I don't think we're doing it on a large enough scale. I scanned the region. I've been connected with a lot of other small businesses in the region through the work that I do and activism and anything. And I hear about the support that they get from their governments and also from their government's partnership with international institutions, not just the government doing it, but in collaboration with. And they provide a lot of support, especially when COVID started last year. It was in the first few months when one of my friends said, one of my Bayesian friends, she was like, there's a grant right now for small businesses to be able to remain relevant, right? And she applied and she got through. And there were 20 other businesses like her. She's under 20, she's 25. And she's running a successful business that makes jewelry and stuff, right, for people. She created a show online to empower women as an extension of her brand that helped her to remain relevant during COVID-19. And she received a grant from the Barbados government to do that, right? There are ways, because I always say we have partnerships I love international relations. We are connected with so many countries, with so many resources that we can tap into via a lot of the agreements that we have with them, right? These are things that I really would like to see the government doing so that they could restore rebuild the ecosystem for business by connecting and promoting individuals through across the world so that we could share emerging good practices and resources for small businesses such as market information so that they can learn from each other in real time. I really do believe this is the role of government. They don't have to give us handouts, but you can assist in making connections so that we can apply to these institutions and these spaces, because there's no way that you can get something by, oh, this person would be good for that. Right? It's not about that. You have to demonstrate that you're doing the work. You have to demonstrate that you have a willingness to expand the way you think about your business and the possibilities of your business so that you can get through. Because if we just do things by handing out to people because we see them suffering, that's a whole different ballgame. Right? So governments, y'all have any other input?
You said such an important part, again, making those connections, right? Even for me who wants to export certain things, it's difficult, but if government did some of these things, it would make it a lot easier for me. So
like an intermediary.
Yeah, all I'm left with really, I don't want to say it in petition terms, I feel, because we have this attitude in saying, the government can't do everything. How much you want from the government? My thing then, if it is that you cannot give me a grant, support, or whatever, take care out my pocket. Because entrepreneurs will go out and make it for ourselves. The problem is not that we don't want to spend and empower ourselves. The problem is that you have to buy back your stuff from customs. You have all these other things that really just weighing you down. If it is you're in a position where you cannot financially give me something, give me duty free. Reduce taxes on something. Take care out my pocket in some way so that you free up my money, resources, whatever, to try push myself a little further. So that's all I would say.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think some of the policies, like looking forward, so we're going to have almost immediate, short-term, medium, long-term, etc. The immediate was you get a big cut and you just need to stop the bleeding. That was the emergency with COVID. So governments across the world were trying to figure out what they have in the piggy bank, and you could criticize how they distributed what they distributed, whether it is assigned to what and portion. Luckily or fortunately for us, it seemed that we had something to put in. But again, I would reiterate and say probably government's second most important stimulus activity is keeping the workforce they have employed. Because trust me, I remember speaking with an entity, restaurant entity that deals primarily with visitors, tourists, etc. And this was like early this year. And I said, well, how's business going? They said, well, business never been so good they were getting more visitors from locals than they were getting when tourism was at its height.
Imagine that.
And this is in the economy. So again, it's a mixed bag because you have people suffering, but there are people going out and patronizing regularly. A big part of that, again, is people still being employed fully, not having reduced salary, etc. And a big portion of that is government employees. But I totally agree. I've been extremely critical, and this is one of the things I raised actually at the National Forum in 2019. I said, CBI works well, enough, it seems. It will be prudent for us to take some portion of that and to have a serious R&D approach, where we're giving grants, people who may have ideas to do things differently, innovation, you're driving that portion of it, because you never know when an industry may collapse or have some difficulty. I raise the issue. Tourism is important for us, but it is a fickle industry. It can be easily influenced by different occurrences. We need to have that buffer. We need to have the heavy diversification, and that requires investment. And I would want to see government put in more effort into investing and innovating along the lines, especially where small businesses can play a role in that.
So diversifying.
And also, and also speaking about the tax part of it, because that gets on me as well. But I think we still have the highest, if I'm not, among the highest VAT. If you are qualified to pay VAT, if you're a small business qualified, we have one of the highest VATs in the region, 17%. It's been 10 years now. It's time for a full review of our taxation system to see how it works for small businesses and see what incentives we can have and apply practically, because the government needs to make money as well.
Of course.
I agree. Incentives are
But if
important.
you're able to make more money, they're able to get more.
Yeah.
that is the key argument for regional travel, you know, is that, sorry not to go too far away, but that is the argument for regional travel. If you could get more people using travel regionally, so you have a nice low price. Don't tax people to that on the travel. Get more people circulating across the region.
Yeah, the volume would come through it. Yes, it does. It does, and that's just generally the thing. That's economics. That's basic economics. I don't know how to say it any other way. But another area I would like to commend actually, because we've been very critical. The business owners that have been offering small business owners, whether it's discounts or in some instances some credit departments and as well as banks who have offered something such as a moratorium. Correct. Right? And by that I mean, which is essentially it's an opportunity to defer or postpone payments until a later date. So I've like to commend. I've been a beneficiary of that. My landlord has also been very, very gracious to me. So there are some very good, people out there trying to assist small businesses. So we must really, really commend them for their efforts, and other bigger businesses that deal with small business owners and call you directly on your phone. Hi, I know the lockdown may have been impacting you. Do you need some assistance? They have been doing that, and that is something that I appreciate. All right, but. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that, but we have one more point to cover and then we'll be wrapping up, which is the pressing areas that require attention to resuscitate and grow small businesses in SKN, and from that we'll wrap up today's discussion.
I think we touched on some of them in terms of looking at taxation, grants, and that type of stuff. Right. So, and I think there has been, comparative to other parts of the Caribbean, we have been doing relatively well, not as probably not as well as a lot of us think we can and should be able to be doing at this time, but comparatively we're not the worst off. But that doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. So I think, again, looking closely at the taxation structure, how it impacts the small business sector being more organized, getting more organized, understanding that there's work to be done in terms of the organization component of it. And also, for the government, what I would like to see from the government especially is more access to data.
Right.
Make the data a lot more open, a lot more available.
Right. What about you, Sha?
For me, what the government can, how we can help going forward, innovation, right? I would like to, I've said this in so many interviews, I would like to see us take advantage more of e-commerce, and even with tourism. We think of tourism mainly in cruise ship passengers and stopover tourists, but anything can create a tourism product, and the person doesn't have to physically come to your island for that product. So I would like us to be more innovative and look at ways that we do have unique things to offer. How can we sell this to the world, not just a particular set of people coming on ships, but to the world? So innovation and finding alternatives to the traditional tourism way of thinking. That's what I would like to see.
I would definitely agree here on that. That is actually my number one point. I want to see us training and adapting to the new paradigm shifts, because people's needs and attitudes are changing now as we experience the health crisis into an economic crisis, right? So creative innovation for me was number one within businesses, and not just at ICTs, but adapting, and also to actually push authenticity, because sometimes when we talk about being innovative, a lot of people think technology, when it doesn't really mean technology. Creative innovation could also mean the way you brand yourself. So I know a lot of people, you know why they love Jamaicans? Because they are authentic. They're not afraid to use their dialect in the way in which they communicate to their people and people outside of their culture, right? Because people are attracted to it. People are attracted to the wagwan, right? They're attracted to the words that they use. Even one love is a thing.
It's a brand,
right? It's a brand. So why aren't we adapting in that way? We have very authentic, interesting points of conversation in our dialect. We have in the way we move and the way we act. You spoke about our aggression, which in conversation a few weeks ago with a friend, he was likening it to Jamaicans, because we both went to school in Jamaica, and he was like, we're pretty much similar, which is true, because I got my hustle from Jamaicans, but the aggressiveness was very similar, so it wasn't hard for me to understand them and the way in which they operate and spoke to each other, because we do similarly in St. Kitts. In Jamaica, they couldn't identify me as a Kittitian. I was Jamaican to them. Right, until I told them otherwise, right? So it was similar. But another area I have is export readiness. We have a very small market, and there are so many small businesses that have the potential to grow to export to external markets. So I mean, I was selected last year to be a part of a program during the downtime. Or ECS and Caribbean Export Development Agency did an export accelerator for youth entrepreneurs. I did not apply. They picked my name out of a hat and sent me an email and said, we recognize the work that you're doing, and we think that you could benefit from this. And I was assigned for 10 weeks, I think it was, a business development coach that coached me through everything from the start. Even she looked at she was from Trinidad, and she worked with me virtually and I was a part of a group of 4 others. So we did group training and then individual consultation. And it was very, very, useful, because I was able to think about the paradigm shifts and all of those things. So besides export readiness, we would need training to be able to be ready for export. We actually also need to look at creating alliances across the region, look at service and product development and product research. We need to look at risk management and analysis. We need to look at market analysis and market research. Getting that data is important, so that we could be able to understand people's needs and maximize opportunities to make money. Because I know it's important to be happy with what you do, but how happy are you going to be doing something that's not helping you? So passionate first, and then the money flows after, right? We get that a lot from people who are very, very passionate about what they do. But it's really important to have all these other things, plus being able to measure success through financial analysis and other key indicators of success based on industry standard criteria, right? So these are some of the things. Obviously, we also need funding.
Of course.
Access to grants and resources like grant writers. Like we said, the Small Business Development Center offers that service as well at no cost to you, with the criteria, of course, to accommodate all of these things.
And it could very well be that a lot of the things we are requesting may exist in terms of there's an organization or entity here, but we're just correct. So I think there needs to be better effort in maybe promoting and highlighting these type of things. And just one thing I forgot to mention in relation to tourism, because tourism is still going to be a main driver and factor for us for the foreseeable future. As much as we want to diversify, we have too much stock invested in tourism as it is to simply pull away. But I think one of the things that we need to look closely at is expanding long-term tourism as well. When I say long-term, I'm talking about the student market, because it's a different experience to the stayover and cruise ship. They try to work into and understand the culture over time, and they have a much wider exposure in terms of where they spend and that kind of thing. So I think if you could increase that strategically, that would put us in in a position to have a slightly diversified tourism target market as well.
Yeah, so I think this is going to bring us to the end of our discussion. I think we've covered a lot. We covered a lot today, even though the time felt like it flew by. It seems to be doing that lately. We're almost at the end of the year. So we just had a discussion with Mr. Rodney Brown, entrepreneur, and Ms. Chevrich, who is also an entrepreneur. We missed, if you only tuned in for the latter half, Mr. Delwyn Delaney of the Small Business Development Center, and Gian joined us for a little bit of exchange there. We talked about economic recovery for small businesses, what we think the government should do, what small businesses can do for themselves by coming together. We looked at so many other areas of who we are, what we're doing, issues of mandating vaccines, as well as pre-pandemic and the current situation with the pandemic as it relates to small business and its impact on small business. And of course, we just covered the issues of what do we need to focus on. Hopefully, we can take this information, pass it along. We hope to sit down with Mr. Delaney one of these days and probably share a lot more. For if you tuned in, thank you for tuning in to Alarm Clock in collaboration with Win Media for a special edition of Inside the News. And we are going to see you guys sometime soon. So look out for more information or more discussions. Thank you all for coming. It was a very good discussion.
Thank you.
And I hope that you have a very good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll